Hello, chess friends, and welcome to your of chess channel, and welcome to the match that everyone was waiting for. Welcome to the spectacular game between Arjun Erigaisi and Magnus Carlsen from the Tata Steel Rapid and BLitz tournament in 2024. So, of course, we know in one particular moment in this month, Arjun Erigaisi was the number 2 in the world in classical time format chess. So Magnus is, of course, still the number 1, and this is really the game that I really wanted to see, because I really wanted to see where is Arjun Erigaisi compared to Magnus Carlsen. Also in this faster time formats, we know that the rapid section is played in 25 minutes plus 10 seconds increment. So really, very interesting game. Put your seatbelts on. Really well things happened. The game finished a couple minutes ago. Let's see now what happened in the epic game between Arjun Erigaisi and Magnus Carlsen. With the white pieces, Arjun opened with move e4, c5 by Magnus the Sicilian, knight to f3, e6 the French variation, d4, c takes d4. We have now the open Sicilian, and after knight to c6 and knight to c3, we have now the Bastrikov variation here by Magnus Carlsen, queen to c7, knight to b5. Immediately, it's not so dangerous because queen to b8 will happen. So here, Arjun continues with the normal bishop to e3, prepares the so-called English attack with bishop to e2, f3, g4, is of course trying to launch a potential kingside flank attack if black castles too early in the game. We have now a6 by Magnus, preventing finally knight to b5, a3, knight takes d4 by Magnus, and now queen to d4. Good move here by Arjun. The queen comes out now with the tempo. You are supposed to play now with the queen here because you now finally liberated the square for the king, and now you can play queenside castling with an extra tempo sort of. Here Magnus continues with an immediate flank attack on the queen side with the move b5. Arjun prepares now bishop to e2, which becomes now also a theoretical novelty. Bishop to b7 by Magnus, occupying this diagonal, queenside castling by Arjun, and now rook to c8. And look at this, Magnus is not castling in this game immediately. He is waiting first of all what Arjun is going to make, because it's very hard now for white to coordinate the attack. If you maybe launch too early and flank attack on the king side, then in some lines black could also stay with the king in the center, not rushing, not castling into white's attack. So here for rook to c8, here Arjun first of all improves the position of the king, which is of course a pragmatic way. Great choice. First of all, secure the king, bring it on the best place. The pieces are on active squares anyway, and then it's time to launch an attack. Knight to f6 here by Magnus Carlsen, and the engine says here this is now an equal game now for both sides. But now Arjun spices up the game. He immediately goes for the attack with e5. Knight to d5. Magnus has now still this good score for the knight. Knight takes d5, bishop to d5, and look at this. This bishop becomes really a good piece all over the board. It's crossing now on both diagonals, and Arjun plays now very interesting choice, bishop to d3. He first of all protects now his c2 weakness, allows here Magnus Carlsen to pick up the pawn, but now Arjun goes for the attack. I think it's a great compensation for the lost pawn, because Magnus has really now tough time to secure the king by castle on king side. So with this move order, with this sequence, I think black has to stay now with the king in the center, and now Arjun is trying to launch an attack. Great choice. I think maybe it's not the optimal choice when it comes to computer relations, but it's a brave choice. That's how you play chess against Magnus. You want to attack, you want to of course somehow put more pressure against the strongest player in the world. We have now bishop to d5, Magnus retreats, and now h4. Great attack here by Arjun. g6 forces now a tiny little here reaction by black, where you create now many structural weaknesses, and now the follow-up is also great here by Arjun. Queen to f4 with the preparation to play queen to f6. Black is slightly better here, but you have to now really find the best defensive moves, and actually Magnus, also great defender, first of all finds the best idea. Bishop to e7 plays a calm line, and Arjun of course continues with an h5 attack. We have now rook to f8 by Magnus Carlsen, castling in a different way. Now the rook is flipped like towards the king. Usually the king is supposed to be here on g8. Now we have really strange castling position here by Magnus Carlsen in the center of the board. Bishop to d4 by Arjun, centralizing the pieces. Good choice again, and now queen to b7. And as I mentioned, black is slightly better here because of the extra pawn. Has now great diagonal for the light square bishop, and I think when we really watch now the attacking possibilities, black's attack here on the queen side, it's much easier to perform than maybe white's attack here towards the center of the board. I think black's king in the center of the board is even more secure than maybe white's king on the queen side, although Arjun castled in a normal way. But I think a5 b4 is now, or maybe even b4 immediately, is now immediately the great chance here for Magnus Carlsen. After rook to g3, Arjun includes now a new defender into the game because he notices that something could be dangerous around here on the third rank. Great defensive move also, rook to g3, but Magnus attacks the position immediately. b4, a takes b, queen takes b4, and now after bishop to a6, Arjun has now his pawn back, but Magnus Carlsen plays now a really strange move. I'm not sure why he played this move. I think here immediately he had this choice with rook to a8, which would be a brilliant attacking idea. Now Arjun would have to step back. You continue with the attacking flow here on the a file. You're forcing now your opponent to retreat, and now you go again towards the c file. Very dangerous attack this would be against white's position. White is not lost immediately, but I think in this faster time format, after a couple more moves, Arjun Erigaisi's position could collapse. But strangely here, Magnus Carlsen played rook to b8. I'm not sure why he played this move. This b2 square is perfectly covered by the bishop activity. Here Arjun simply retreats, bishop to e2, and now finally Magnus plays rook to a8. Magnus could have already an extra tempo against this bishop on a6. Now Arjun plays b3. We have queen to a5. Very dangerous stuff already here against white's king, and Arjun plays now again a tiny little inaccuracy here. He plays bishop to b2. This is not good. Here you have to play king to c1, allow first of all the check, and then you go with king to b1. If black wants to clear again this a file, then you again go with king to c1, and you should in this position, I think, be satisfied with the draw. But after bishop to b2, now Magnus again doesn't react correctly. Here Magnus had a huge choice with the move g5, and g5 would actually neutralize any threat on the king side here in black's position. g5 causes now, of course, also an extra tempo for black. Here Arjun would have to probably retreat to d4, and now you go with f6. You can even get use of this diagonal. For instance, if e takes f6 happens, then you have a bishop to f6 immediately, creating really some madness here on this diagonal. So it would be already a messy game. Or if you don't want to pick up here maybe the pawn on f6 here, then you could maybe try to continue with h6, but then after something like f takes e5, bishop to h5, look at this. Again, the king is perfectly fine on d8. So black's attack is much stronger than white's attack in the center of the board. And then after something like queen to e5, you go like this, bishop to a3. After a couple of trades of pieces, you pick up now the pawn on f2, and that's the issue here. That was Magnus Carlsen's huge chance to finally occupy now also the second rank in this particular sequence. I would say completely winning position here for white. But again, Magnus doesn't play the best move. He plays first of all queen to a2, and now after king to c1, rook to c8. Arjun finds now the only defensive idea, c4, and after g takes h5, again we have an equal game. Magnus had his chances in the game, but now nothing complicated again is going on. Arjun protected everything, and also the b3 square is covered. Now here queen to d4 by Arjun Erigaisi, centralizing the queen. h4, at least something here by Magnus. We have rook to h3, rook to g8 here by Magnus. Great move, again occupying the only open file. And after king to c2, queen to a8, the only move here by Magnus, because there is now a huge threat of rook to a1 trapping the queen. Magnus plays now the only move, queen to a8, and now comes another critical moment of this game. Here Arjun Erigaisi plays a strange and really big mistake, rook to c3. The issue about this move, rook to c3, is that actually the rook gets a little bit trapped. Look at this. After bishop to e4 that Magnus correctly played here, the issue is now you cannot step back here to c1 with your king. Then bishop to g5 is going to happen. And look at this. f4 is not a possibility because this bishop has covered now the fourth rank, and f4 is not possible. So it's completely winning game here for black. So after rook to c3 and bishop to e4, Arjun plays now the only move here, bishop to d3. He covers now here this diagonal, but now the rook is exposed to some attacks, maybe with bishop to c3. The rook could be trapped, or here rook to rook to g2 would be also a very, very interesting idea here by Magnus Carlsen. Magnus plays again the correct choice, the best move, bishop to f3, keeps an attack against the rook. Here Arjun plays rook to a1, and now Magnus of course plays queen to c6, keeps an eye now on the c file, but of course is also preparing the dangerous bishop to b4. After queen takes c6 by Magnus, Arjun plays now the only move, bishop to h7, tries of course to somehow liberate now. Here's some squares for the rook, but now Magnus continues in the best way, rook to g2, attacks now the f2 pawn, and also there is a huge problem now. Here the h pawn is marching, so Magnus cleared now the path for the pawn in some lines. There could be also a very dangerous promotion. And what should now Black do? The only way to somehow survive a little bit this position, again, in any of these lines, Black is much, much better. You could try maybe rook to f1. This wasn't played in the game by Arjun. Or you could maybe try rook to f1, but then rook to g7 in attack against the bishop. For instance, in order to stay in the game, you have to sacrifice now the rook for the exchange and hope to get the best out of this position. But again, very, very dangerous position. But look at this, after rook to g7, if you retreat, then Black continues the attacking flow. Black's pieces are so active that you have really a tough time to secure the queen somewhere. Bishop to g5, the great follow-up would come. Queen to e1, now you push the pawn. Maybe you're trying even, I don't know, to trade off the bishops. Now the queen is coming into the game. The activity of Black's pieces is really too enormous here. You try maybe to step back. Look at this. I've analyzed just one line. Queen to b1. You attack. Now the rook is coming into the game. You have to now cover with the queen, and it's even here checkmate after rook takes d2, king to e1, and the game is lost. So here, really crazy position. Rook to g2 is such a devastating idea, because the rook is also supporting now the h2 square. In some lines we're playing h2 and then rook to g1, and there is now huge threat. In the game, Arjun tried bishop to a3, but actually it's not helping him, because now Magnus, as I said, pushed the pawn. Arjun is trying to go behind, but now the pawn is simply too advanced now, and after rook to a1, Magnus plays now the correct rook to g1. Look how great Magnus is in this calculations. Queen to h2, Arjun takes here bishop to g6 with some threat of maybe, I don't know, queen to h8, but here Magnus played the calm. King to d8 says deliver a check. I'll just go here, and in this particular position Arjun Erigaisi resigned. So epic game here by Magnus Carlsen. I think he could have also earlier win this game. He was so dominant all over the board through the whole game. Incredible performance. Arjun missed, I think, something in the opening. Played this really active gambit where he sacrificed the g pawn just in order to launch an attack, but the position in the center was after potential e5 move that he played in the beginning. Here in this position after move e5, I think after knight to d5, it's very hard now to somehow open the center of the board, because there is simply no further flexibility. Magnus stayed calmly with the king in the center, and here played an awesome game with the black pieces. So with this win, Magnus Carlsen took over now in the event. Today Magnus played really like a machine. 3 wins he had today, which is really crazy. Again, we have the epic performance by Magnus Carlsen. Nodirbek Abdusattorov is now on the 2nd place, so it will be a tough battle. Still, we're waiting for the derby, of course, between Nodirbek Abdusattorov and Magnus Carlsen. So congratulations. This was here the game Arjun against the big Magnus Carlsen. That's the game, as I mentioned in the beginning, that we have expected, that we wanted to see. But you see, still Magnus Carlsen is slightly better than the top grandmaster Arjun Erigaisi from India. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas of the Bastrikov Sicilian. If you want to see some other beautiful games that we have covered in this event, check out our coverage. Here are some links of some games that we have analyzed before, and if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.